Hi, everybody. I have Keely with me. She's going to tell us some ghost stories and share a little bit about herself. And we've talked a little bit before we started, and she seems like a very sweet girl. So I'm excited to talk to her. So,
O- okay, so my name's Keely, like you said. I'm I'm an amateur paranormal investigator slash author slash um I don't know. Those are the things that I am most passionate about. So you mentioned like you wanted to hear about some of the ghostly encounters that I've had. Um, so as of recently, um, there's been a lot of sightings in my family home, the home where I grew up. I moved back here after I was in California for about 2 years, and after I decided California just wasn't my vibe, I moved to LA. I grew up in a really small town, and I decided LA wasn't for me. So I moved back to my parents' home while I'm figuring things out, getting settled. Well, this place is very haunted, actually. Um, we're not entirely sure who the spirits are, but we know they're here. And I was sharing a little bit of that with my partner, who is recently starting to come to terms with the idea that ghosts exist. And so our last little stint here has been very interesting. Needless to say, he's always kind of freaking out about something, always wondering when the ghosts are going to appear. I'm not sure if he is okay with the idea of spirits or is very frightened by it, but it would have helped if our first ghostly experience wasn't in Villisca, Iowa. We stayed the night at the Axe Murder House, where, in June of 1912, a family of six, as well as two house guests, were murdered in their beds. Um, and we went there. That was my bucket list trip. It always has been. And my partner said to me, "Where would you like to go? I'll take you anywhere you want to go." And they thought I was going to say, like, I want to go to London or I want to go to Korea or no. I said, I want to go to Iowa. And they were like, okay, well, we'll make that happen. So we show up at the murder house, and my partner's totally an atheist, totally staunch atheist, has no, they're like, oh, I'm going to protect you from the spooky ghost. Yeah, okay. And I'm downstairs taking pictures and kind of looking around, because at very least it's a cool house. I grew up with a little house on the prairie, so I'm really excited to even just be there for the setting to kind of see what it's like to live in a prairie house and to live the way that they would have lived. And I'm walking through the house, taking pictures, maybe thinking I could put some on social media or, just, or maybe use some later um, for stories or something. And I'm walking around, and as I'm kind of wheeling around the house with my wheelchair, all of a sudden my partner comes running down the stairs. I didn't go up the stairs because wheelchair. So I'm downstairs, partner's upstairs, comes running down. It's like, babe, I'm scared. And I'm like, okay. Apparently, there's an axe mark above one of the beds. You can totally see the axe imprint. I actually did eventually go upstairs, and it is right there. You can see the axe indent in the wall in the ceiling of where the killer would have swung the axe, because the axe was upside down when the crime was committed. They were bludgeoned with the axe. So the pointed end ended up in the ceiling, and so my partner was like, "I'm hearing axe marks coming from the ceiling," and I'm like, um, "So you're hearing thumping?" And they did not want to go upstairs alone again at all. Did not want to move. So that was the first little bit of our ghost exploration, as far as a couple and their foray into ghost existing. Belisco was a real eye opener for us, I think. And it really helped us grow as a couple, which was great. But now, um, so a little bit more about Belisca, just because it's kind of cool. Um, we ended up in the Stillinger room. Like I said, I have a wheelchair, so we wound up downstairs. Ina and Lena Stillinger were house guests of the Moors. They weren't supposed to even be there, which is the really kind of messed up part that kind of sticks with me. Like, the girls were never supposed to be there. They were supposed to be staying with their grandmother, and they wound up, unfortunately, in the Moors' house because they were having a weird feeling about that night as well, and the didn't want to walk to their grandmother's house alone in the dark. So they had asked to stay at the Moore's house and were subsequently murdered in their beds. There's also some evidence of some inappropriate, um, other abuses to one of the little girls, um, which breaks my heart in so many ways. But the little girls have their pictures by the bed, and one of the girls' pictures tipped over. Now, my partner has an engineering degree, and we spent the rest of the day, the next day, looking for, how this place might have been rigged up. Do the pictures tip over? Is there some sort of sound machine upstairs in the room where, they have maybe something rigged up to make those thumping noises to look like an axe murder or shoes or something. We looked and looked, there's nothing there. So that was horrifying. I personally am not afraid of ghosts, but spending the night where 8 people were murdered and hearing axe, hitting the ground, hearing what is someone crying when it's just me and my partner who was right next to me, and you're like, okay, it's horrifying because it wasn't just a ghost; it was ghosts that were, you know, sadly had their lives taken from them. And that was a very eye-opening experience for me as a creator as well, because I work with a lot of violent content. And so seeing that someone isn't a case to be studied or isn't some scary story, but is an actual person. I won't lie, I sat and cried for about 20 minutes because
Aw.
it's like this helpless feeling. You want to help them, you want to just scoop them up, especially because we're in a room with little kids in it that, with little girls were bludgeoned to death. And you want to hug them and tell them it's okay, but A, it's not because they were, you know, unalived, and B, you can't anyway. So that really pulled at my heartstrings. I'm thankful for our trip to Alaska in so many ways because it taught my partner that ghosts were real, and it taught me that these victims are actual human beings and they're not statistics or scary stories or puzzles to be solved. They're humans. So that was my little prelude to, I promise it makes sense. So that's my little prelude to my most recent ghost story, to explain how we've come to the conclusions that we have, as in terms of how we look at the paranormal, how we look at, the next life and things that can happen in this life that impact the next life. So, we had a bit of an early Christmas this year. My partner and I are living in different states right now, so my partner decided to come up for Thanksgiving, and we set up the tree and we watched Home Alone. And we did, Christmassy things. We made cookies. And as my partner was in the kitchen baking cookies, says to me, babe, what is in, what does your ghost resemble? What do you see when you see them? And I said, well, it's a figure of a man. We know it's a man because of the, body structure, and they're wearing a hat, like like a little rimmed kind of pork pie hat, and they were like, yeah, I just saw this apparition, and we're like, oh, okay. So that was the first thing, and things were moving around the house. You can see little orbs here and there, kind of introducing my partner to my ancestral home. I was raised in church. I was raised to believe in angels, and I was taught that the things in our home were angels. Um, I I very much believe that, not so much from a religious perspective, but just from what I've seen. A few years ago, my aunt passed away, and we didn't know my aunt was sick. Unfortunately, she had cancer a few years before her last illness that would take her from us. But she had cancer, and she went and had another cancer screening, and she was fine. So everything was good. Well, the day that she had her screening done, um, water just turns on out of nowhere. And my mom's like, are you running water somewhere? She's walking around the house trying to figure out where the water's coming from because, we got to turn it off. We don't want anything to flood. We're looking around, and finally she goes down to the basement, and there's a water valve behind a door. You have to go down the basement stairs, go through the basement stuff because, like a lot of basements, it's kind of the junk room. You got to go through the basement, and then you have to go through a door, through another door, and unlock this other door with a key in order to turn the water valve on. It's meant to be the outside water valve that controls like the sprinkler system and stuff, but it's really hard to turn on. Like you have to go through so many steps to turn that water on. Well, um, the water turned on, and we're like, that is really weird because it's not the kind of thing you can flip on by accident. Where's this coming from? That day we find out that my aunt had been to the emergency room with what they presumed to be a stomach bug, was profusely vomiting, and then we find out that it's not. It's another form of cancer that was like missed because it was really in a very strange spot, and so they missed the cancerous tumor. Um, and that was the one that ultimately took my aunt from us. But it seems to want to tell us whatever this ghost is. Seems to want to tell us things. I believe it was probably a family member that passed away, or maybe a family member of the people that lived here before us. I'm not sure which. But we had gotten the house from a family. It was passed down through generations, and we ended up with it, because it was a fixer-upper and it was passed down in inheritance, and so they sold it, and we wound up with it. And so we're not really sure who the ghost is or where they came from, but they definitely have good intentions being here. Um, the one thing that comes to my mind is like one day I was making food, and I'd opened the freezer door, and decide that I'm not wanting, I think it was like chicken nuggets. This was quite a while ago. I think it was chicken nuggets though. I put them back in the freezer, and the freezer door won't close. So I rearranged a couple things, shut the freezer door again, thinking, okay, maybe it's just, maybe it wasn't properly closing because something was in the way. Well, I did that a bunch of times, and then I finally said, can you please stop opening the freezer? I know you're here. Thank you. And the freezer doesn't, and I close the freezer and it stays closed. And about, and a very short time later, I was boiling water to cook pasta and I got burned to the point where I had to go to the emergency room. Like my arm was purple from
Oh,
the
wow.
burn. And so we think it's just trying to look out for us in whatever ways it can, whatever this spirit is. But we don't believe it's the only one. Again, more good spirits are probably here. My little sister was my little sister, I think, was like 2 or 3. She really didn't have the ability to talk about what she was. I'm sorry, I don't know. I think my dad's home. Didn't realize it was
Oh,
gonna
that's
happen.
okay.
But whatever was communicating with her was, we believe, other children. She came into my mother's room one day and says, "Well, I've made new friends." And again, child doesn't really understand a lot of things, doesn't really understand what's being said. She says, "I made new friends named Yuri and Davin. They like to play with me. And there's also an older lady that can take her legs off. So amputee, we think, or maybe someone that doesn't had like an amputation and then could remove their legs for whatever reason. Um, and one day I was actually talking about this in like a paranormal group online just for fun. I was typing it up because it was like, what's the strangest thing that's ever happened? So the first thing that pops in my head is my sister and her imaginary friends, and I'm typing it out, and I had a bookshelf on the other side of the room, and I had like just a kind of makeshift bookshelf of it was a dresser, and all of a sudden, book flies off the bookshelf into a box, lands perfectly in a cardboard box on the other side of the shelf, and I'm like, okay. So I go to pick up the box and look in it, see, put my books back. And the book that fell was one single book titled "There's Someone Inside Your House." And I was like, okay, I'm glad you're still here. Like, thank you for the acknowledgement. That's probably the creepiest thing that's ever happened because it was so on the nose, undeniable, like, oh my gosh, someone is here and they want me to know about it. It was it was something, and I'll never forget it. I've told that story to anyone who will listen to me because it's like my proof that there's ghosts. Um, but now I set out to prove that to everyone else. We took a 10-hour drive to Iowa just so I could show my partner ghosts were real. Like, that is one of my biggest missions because growing up, it was like my link to spirituality. I was never afraid of death. I was never afraid of the next world. I was never afraid of seeing a ghost or a quote unquote monster, because I knew that those things were okay and that whatever was coming next was okay. So it's like part of what I do now is trying to educate people. Um, One thing I'll say is my experiences with Ouija boards have been chronically disappointing. Um, you do it as a party game as a kid and nothing happens, or your friends move the planchette. And then this past year, when we went to Velisca, I was like, I'm buying a Ouija board. And the Ouija board didn't move. Nothing moved. We had a lamp in the side, like propped up in a chair, and that kept tipping over. We'd moved it to different places, put it in different positions in the chair. We'd say, if somebody's here, can you tip it? Can you tip the lamp over? And it would always tip over. So somebody was definitely there with us, but the Ouija boards don't work. I'm not sure if I'm doing it wrong or if like I need to buy something that wasn't made by Hasbro, but go figure. Maybe I should go to Salem and buy one, crafted by someone that knows what they're doing. I have considered that. But so far that's been my experience with that. And I think that's why some people don't believe is they don't believe the more, pop culture references to spirits rather than
Right.
the actual what you can see and understanding there's something out there you can't touch. I think that's where the disconnect is. And that's where my fascination comes from. Like, I don't believe in Mothman. I went to see Mothman last year. I don't know if you even care, but I went to see Mothman and I ended up with this creature. But this squishable was the best part of the trip. Um, Point Pleasant's kind of cool, but the entire town is built around Mothman. And if you don't believe in cryptids, Mothman's not going to be your cup of tea. We drove all the way out there because I wanted to take a fun day trip, and we did. And we wound up in Point Pleasant. And I mean, it was cool, and people were nice, but it was kind of like, okay, cool, Mothman's everywhere, and just kind of moved home, you know. But I do believe in spirits and I believe in things like vampires and ghosts and things of that nature. But Bigfoot and Mothman and stuff, probably hard no until I see something. Um, but um, I feel like I'm bouncing around, but like stuff just
You're
popped.
okay.
Okay, because something just popped into my head. So my partner is an amateur photographer, and also a content creator. And sometimes we go on little day trips, so we have content. And one day we decided to go to Ohio State Penitentiary, which is where they shot oh gosh um that movie with Morgan Freeman, and there's like I don't know, they shot a movie there, and so it's kind of a tourist attraction just because they shot the movie. But
Mhm.
we went and we go in, we have no context for this place, but we read that it's supposed to be haunted. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's go get some cool shots. Maybe this is an old prison. Partner's looking at it like, oh, we can get some cool videos, we can get some cool photos somewhere. We go in the building because I'm like, okay, they shot Shawshank Redemption here, and that's my mom's favorite movie. Maybe I can take pictures or buy her a souvenir from the gift shop, something. And we start going through, and we end up in this room, and I didn't want to be in there. I'm like, you're getting me out of here, and you're getting me out of here right now. And my partner's like, why, babe? It's okay. I'm just gonna take some pictures. I'm like, you're getting me out of here now. And so finally we leave at my behest. I am getting belligerent at this point. I'm like, I'm not staying in here. And so we finally leave the room, and a little while later we find out that that is not a place where anyone goes alone. And that sometimes they target women who they perceive whatever the spirit is targets women in particular that they see as vulnerable. They do not like um they don't like women, and if the spirit is challenged, it's been known to leave scratches on people. We had no idea any of this was happening. Um we actually didn't find out until we had finished up the tour. We had wanted to go to the gift shop, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, come over this way. We'll take you through, and you can, it's easier to get over here with the wheelchair." So we did, and we met a man who told us the lore of that room in particular, and showed us shots of people with scratches on them. Um, so that was pretty scary because we had no context for what that place was. We didn't know. I thought it was a movie set, and I was like, okay, it's supposed to be haunted, but I know nothing about it. And it felt worse because knowing. knowing the history of Villisca, Iowa, knowing the history of my own home where I grew up, at least somewhat. We don't know who the ghosts are, but knowing what that feels like, knowing what to expect, going into a strange place where you don't know what to expect or who's there, and just getting this feeling of dread and fear is a lot worse because you don't know if something actually wants to harm you or what their capabilities are.
Right.
Um, and so that was pretty scary. We also went down into the cells because again we wanted pictures. My partner was like, "Hey, let's get some pictures down in the cells here." Well, me being the crazy person that I am, decided it'd be funny to get in the cell and like make a funny post about, I don't know, going to jail or something, just being a smartass. We go down in, and the minute that I'm alone in that cell, I'm like, I can't stay in here. Um, there was a spirit that said to um, sexually harass females that are in the cells. Um, and I decided to just go in the cell for no apparent reason. And I got this really bad foreboding feeling the minute that I was in there alone. Thankfully, you can't shut the doors. The doors have been removed from those cells because you can just go in. I think it is more of a photo op. And we go in, and so that place was something that I did not expect, but I was so incredibly happy we went because, again, showing somebody ghosts are real and there's something more to the world is very special, especially when it's someone you care about, and you're trying to show them that it's okay, you know. They don't have to be afraid of things that go bump in the night. They don't have to be afraid of anything. Cause but that was definitely a bonding experience. Both those trips have been. We are looking into kind of doing more of those style of experiences. I don't know where you are, but if you know of anything, I'm totally open to hearing like if there's any kind of more overnights or anything like that that we can do potentially. Um,
I'm in Western New York. We have Rolling Hills Asylum, Hinsdale, New York, Wildwood Sanitarium.
oh my
All
goodness. Um, I'm actually in upstate New York myself, so
oh,
that
okay.
that's kind of cool. Have you ever been to Willard?
No.
Oh, we didn't see anything there unfortunately, but it's a really cool like day trip, day spot. I wonder if we would have seen anything had we been allowed to enter most of the buildings, but you can't. Now it's actually a rehab, but like a rehab center for people struggling with addiction. But when we went, they were renovating and they were using part of the building as a daycare, which was weird because we were allowed to go through the daycare. Had we been allowed to go into some of the other buildings that were falling apart and full of asbestos, I don't know as though we wouldn't have seen something a little bit more interesting. Um, but we did go up and it was a really neat day trip. Um, so that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, we are looking for more overnights and I am also very much afraid of hospitals. So I don't know if an asylum would be my cup of tea.
Yeah, Rolling Hills is kind of wild. They have a lot of activity with nurses and things that were there. But it's a cool place if you ever do feel like you want to try it. But there is a lot of like stairs and stuff, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of stairs and a lot of historic places. Uh,
That's true.
yeah, I mean, when we went to Villisca, I said, is it accessible? And they're like, yeah, the main house is accessible, and then you go to the bathroom like in the store. So, in order to go into the store, and I mean, again, they were very accommodating in the ways they could have been. They were very nice. They were helpful. But in order to get to the store, you had to walk about, I'd say like 200 or 300 feet from the existing house, go up a couple of stairs, go into the store, go into the back room, and then go to the bathroom in a little tiny room, which was kind of annoying. But, we made it work. Most of the time, if I want to do something, I make it work. I am not above climbing stairs, as long as I know somebody's there to spot me. I am the owner of a couple different sets of knee pads. I am not above that by any means. It gets me where I want to be, and if I take the time to go somewhere, I'll definitely be very excited to go. Um, One thing I'll say about Villisca, though, those stairs are insane. There's something there, something that I don't think likes people too much. But Mrs. Moore is also in the house, and I didn't want to go up the stairs. I was very nervous because they're stairs, and when I said no, I was very reluctant to go upstairs, but I wanted to see the rest of the house before we were set to leave that morning, and kind of felt this hand kind of go like, gentle nudge, like, I got you, like, go on, and I walked up the stairs and or crawled up the stairs, climbed, and I did fine, and I was able to get back down just fine. But it was weird because it was very much a kind of gentle push. Like, come on, you need to go. I got you. You need
Oh,
to go. Mrs. Moore is said to be there, protecting the home, and in particular protecting female guests. I have suspicions that that's why my partner heard the ghost of the axe murderer, and I did not, because in a Victorian mindset, a woman is more, fragile, I guess, than a man. I don't personally believe that, but again, this was hundreds of years ago, and so maybe that was the mindset. We got to protect her. Um, I will say that um, my partner believes that there was interactions with Reverend Kelly um, on a few different occasions. I didn't. You could hear some thumping noises, but I didn't actually see Reverend. And when I was upstairs, I didn't hear any kind of axe hitting the ceiling, which we were supposed to hear. I didn't hear that. My partner swears that that was a thing, but I didn't hear anything. So I don't know. Um, but it was, I will say that I'm not above, you know, climbing things and getting myself behind things, getting out of the chair and moving around if I have to. That's why they make gloves and knee pads, and why I have sanitary wipes everywhere I go, because if I need to do something, it gets done. I'm not above that. I'm not planning on being in this body forever, and bodies are machines and they malfunction, so I just do what I need to do to get where I want to be. And, unfortunately, when you pick a hobby like the paranormal or something really historic, you're going to encounter some different issues. I'm actually quite excited to explore. I'm hoping to be able to explore another haunted place by my house, but I don't know if I can get in. I'm actually going to call the school and see, but I'm an alumni to um, a college here in town, and there's supposed to be a very haunted room, but they've actually made it so you can't go in the room anymore because they couldn't tell if students were going in and messing with the room or not. The lights are supposed to pop on in the middle of the night. People were leaving things there. People were also lighting candles, which of course you don't want to do unattended. Eventually, they were like, "This is a safety hazard, and we're not sure what's going on in here." So they made it off limits. But I am curious to see if it's a thing and if I can go. I don't know. Because I didn't get my graduate degree from there, so I don't know if I'm allowed to and if I'm considered alumni and if I could just barge into the room. I don't know. But I am very curious about that to see if that's a thing that will happen. Um, but I do think I'm always very excited for my next adventures. One place that surprised me that I didn't see anything was Gettysburg. We went to a supposedly haunted location, and we get there, and they're like, "Oh, this is a field hospital." And like I said, I don't do hospitals. I go to hospitals on a regular basis for health concerns, and I just don't like to be in them unless I have to be. It kind of gives me the creeps. So, but we go to this field hospital. It's a church now, but it was a field hospital then. Field hospitals were places that were just set up kind of as triage so that whenever somebody was injured, you get them to the closest place they can meet with a doctor or surgeon and get hopefully get fixed up. But this field hospital was supposed to be a very grisly place where a lot of people died. And the story goes that at one point, the blood was so high, like there was puddles of blood, and it was so deep that it could go up to your ankles. Human blood.
Hmm.
I didn't see anything, and I'm still very disappointed. Part of me is glad because it might haunt my dreams forever, but I'm also very disappointed I didn't see anything.
That's
Um,
understandable.
yeah, Gettysburg was another bucket list trip. I was waiting to see something really, really intense. Didn't see anything. It was a little disappointing, but you know,
I can relate to that. I've been to
yeah.
Gettysburg.
Oh, you didn't see anything either?
Um, I did a little bit, but not anything like noteworthy, just little visions that I get.
Oh, if I can ask, what were they?
Well, when I was in the hospital area that you were literally just talking about, I saw the guy getting his leg removed. That's one of the stories is that
Oh,
he lost his leg. Then I had pain going through my shin. So I that was the only thing that really happened, I guess, while we were there.
Um, are you like a sensitive?
I'm a medium.
Oh, I would honestly love for you to come to my house. Like
Oh,
that
well,
would
you're
be
close enough. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
that would be like really cool to just have somebody come in that knows more about our, about kind of what's here, what's trying to communicate with us. One thing that I did a few years ago was I went to a psychic, and he said I sat down with him, and he's like, "Wow, you're pretty tough." And I'm thinking, I get this, I get this just from existing because girl in wheelchair, everyone thinks I'm a superhero just because. And so I'm like, what do you mean? And he says, well, you've had several lives, and they're all pretty eventful. So good for you. And I was like, oh, dang, okay. And then he said, well, your grandma, she comes and visits you at night. Um, and there have been times where I've been laid up for medical reasons, and I'll see her just kind of like at the foot of my bed, or if I have to there were a couple times I've had to stay the night in the hospital and been alone because I'm stubborn as heck and I'm like, I got this. I don't want to make anyone else feel, you know, feel, I don't want to put anyone else out, so I can do this myself. And, I'll see my grandma sitting in the chair next to me just chilling.
Oh,
It's like, hey, thanks. Thank you. I know you're here. Um, but so I've always kind of wondered, if she is here and if she is chilling with me. It's kind of cool to have that validated that yeah, she's here. Uh,
right.
something something's definitely here watching over us. So I don't know. I've had suspicions it's her, but if it is a male spirit, then probably not. She wouldn't, I don't believe, be manifesting as a male spirit. Maybe, but she was incredibly feminine in her life. So I wouldn't picture that just, you know, knowing her. But I'm always curious, and I do believe that, maybe she's like my guardian angel or something. Um,
Very well could be.
which is cool. Um, you know, I'm hoping that over time I can have like more adventures. I think that's the bulk of what I'm spending my money on now. We're planning on going to the Stanley Hotel. I don't know if you know what that is.
In Colorado?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we also kind of wanted to go to Columbine, to go to the memorial, not necessarily for sightseeing purposes, but just to kind of go and pay respects because that's like the first like intense thing I remember as a kid.
Right.
But they're on completely different sides of Colorado, so we don't know, but we are very interested in going to the Stanley Hotel. Um, because my partner and I are both authors, so I was able to convince him because he's a huge Stephen King fan. So I was
Nice.
able to be like, "Hey, want to go here?" So I'm more in it for the ghost, but we'll see. We'll see. But that's probably the next trip. We were gonna go to Lizzie Borden's house, but I have I have my reservations about going
Hmm.
to the house, but I think it'd be cool. It'd be a cool experience. Um,
Yeah.
um,
Well, your stories have been just absolutely awesome. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to talk to you. You've been awesome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so
And
much.
I appreciate you taking the time to even talk to me.
Thank you. And I would love to hear more about you. If you ever want to chat or you get a chance, because I think like mediums and psychics are super fascinating. I don't want to
Yeah.
psychoanalyze you. I don't know.
No, by all means. I mean, you've got my contact info and you can shoot me a question anytime you want, or if if you need anything.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Thanks.
Well, again, I really, really appreciate you.
I appreciate your time as well. And
Yeah, if you ever want to come back on, we can set something up again too. It was awesome. I'm sure you'll have more stories once you get some more places under your
I,
belt.
I need to go to some more spooky places. That's all my bucket list consists of. So I am planning on going to as many spooky locations as possible um, here soon. Well, I'll have to see what else I can explore and see what
Absolutely.
I can do. Yeah.
All
And
right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day,
I
and
will.
we will definitely talk again soon, one way or the other, whether I reach out to you or you reach out to me. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to talking to you more.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.